Hey everybody, this is Russ Carson Jr., one of the genealogists here at Family Tree Nuts, and I'm in an area called Big Hill, Kentucky. I'm at the merge of Madison, Rockcastle, and Jackson counties here, and I'm where actually we come out of the foothills of Appalachia and into the rolling bluegrass region of central Kentucky and Madison County there. But I'm in front of the historic marker of the Merritt Jones Wayside Tavern. The Merritt Jones Tavern was a very historic location along this route because we are on the historic Boone's Trace that Daniel Boone, of course, led people through the Cumberland Gap and up to Boonesboro. But the tavern was built about 1800, and by the 1830s was a real happening place and a stop here along the Boone's Trace, or the old state road as they called it, that went from Cumberland Gap all the way up to Lexington. And you can see the route does go up and around the bend there up on top of the hill. And as we get further this way, we see that we're going down through that gap that you see. And then you're into the rolling bluegrass regions of central Kentucky. But you can see the beautiful scenery and the hills that are behind us there. And the area we're going to go down this lane. It's just a little pull off on the side of the road. You see my car? Little pull off on the side of the road. And we're going to hike, I think it's about a quarter mile, maybe a half a mile up into there, where we can find the remains of the tavern and a few other things that we're going to talk about. So anyway, wanted to bring you to this neat little historic location, and let's take a look at the remains of the tavern and some other things that are up here. While we're walking off to the remains of the tavern, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the location that we're at. This is, like I said, we are on the old Boone's Trace. Boone's Trace did follow an old Native American path that it went to all the way through the Cumberland Gap and much further south, of course, and all the way up into central Kentucky, up into central Ohio, and even further on. That was the old Warrior's Path. And Daniel Boone used that path to bring settlers and pioneers into Kentucky. And it was, so this was a very well used route originally in the foundation of the West. And we've done some other videos and stories of some other locations along that route, but wanted to kind of give you a little bit of story about this area here. The road now is mountainous terrain and pretty rural, and the folks that live there are awesome folks, but most of them commute to other places, just not as many jobs up in Jackson County. So anyway, wanted to take you to that, tell you a little bit about where we're at. I'll give you a little turnaround of what we've got. You can see the scenery that we're walking down here. It is paved. It does eventually turn into gravel. I haven't been down this path for a few years myself, but I wanted to come here once the leaves had fallen a little bit, because you can see more of the foundation that's there too. So let's go see what we can find. Okay, so we're down the path a few hundred yards. You can see behind me there, and the path does turn into, once was gravel, but it's pretty covered up right now. So I wanted to show you this because if you ever visit this location yourself, you know that you're on the right location to go back inside here. So let's go a little bit further up here for a little bit further hike. Kind of give you some of the stuff that you can see here. It's not a bad hike. Of course, we are going downhill, but you can see there are some markers up here, so we know we're going the right location. It's not a very popular historic location, so that's why I wanted to take you. You see our signs here says 520 feet to the cemetery that I haven't told you about yet. And of course, site number 2, it's right up here is where we're going to. So let's go take a look. All right, we're now at the end of the path, and the path makes a little hook to the right, and it brings us right here to the remains of the Merritt Jones Wayside Tavern. You can see the threshold that's right there behind me, right there, and you'll see a couple of the chimneys that are remaining right there. One of them is right behind that tree, getting a shot right there, and then we've got another one right here behind us. We'll get some close-ups of that here for you as well. But the tavern, like I said, they say was built around 1800. By 1830s, it had became a real happening spot right here, and The tavern, during the Battle of Richmond, which happened in 1862 in August, the tavern was used as a Confederate hospital for the wounded that were to be cared for after the battle. And right behind us here is a Confederate cemetery where a few of the Confederates that died in the tavern right there are buried just a few hundred yards behind the tavern, including a 15-year-old boy. In 1864, General U.S. Grant actually stayed the night at this tavern, they say, him and his staff. Much to the chagrin of the owner. The owner's wife and children were here maintaining the tavern while the owner was off fighting with the Confederacy. So they were forced to allow General Grant to sleep at this tavern right here. So it's a neat little story about it. The tavern was eventually turned into a residence, and some people lived here. Unfortunately, in 1995, the tavern was destroyed by fire. And that's what we see right here is the remains of the tavern itself. It's nothing but a big mound. You can see the threshold is right here. Here's another fireplace right up top here. You can see the two beautiful fireplaces that are still somewhat intact. You can see down inside here where many travelers would have passed through on their way up through Kentucky. You can see where some people have been digging. I'm sure there's been quite a few people out here with metal detectors doing some digging around here, but wanted to take you over here. We've got this neat shot of the remains of one of the corners there with the chimneys around the back there. So maybe one of your ancestors stopped here at this location and stayed a night, or maybe just had a meal. So but let's go to our next stop. All right, so right now we're at a graveyard that is behind the tavern that we just visited, that was used as a makeshift Confederate hospital during the Battle of Richmond. Behind me here you see that there are headstones that have Confederate flags beside them. Originally they were just stones until the government put their military headstones inside there. And I'm going to go take a look at each one of them there that we're doing in a separate video of this cemetery. But wanted to take you to this little spot right here in the middle of the woods, right off the road. Most people don't know about it, of course. We are about 200 yards, maybe 300 yards off of 421, going up to Big Hill inside Jackson County from Madison County. It's a very solemn spot, very solemn location, beautiful scenery here. There are 13 headstones here of men that died right at this location, most of them in their 20s or 30s. There's even a 15-year-old boy that's buried here. So wanted to take you to this unique location, and possibly one of your ancestors was here. Remember, Family Tree Nuts. Let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.